Let's talk a little Royals baseball with Jake Eisenberg, who is down in Texas getting set for the Royals and the Rangers on 96.5 The Fan. Also, Jake Eisenberg, kind enough to give us a couple opportunities in our garage sale, the Jake Eisenberg experience. We're excited about that, man. So thanks so much for helping out with the garage sale.
Yeah, I mean, I would advise that if you really want to increase the bidding, definitely don't call it the Jake Eisenberg experience. That's probably gonna keep those bids low. But no, that'll be a really fun thing. It's always cool when we can have people come up into the booth for an inning to kind of see what it's like up there. I'm biased, but I think we've got one of the best seats in the house, if not the best seat in the house. And it's a pretty cool experience because we've got some wireless headsets up there that you can put on and you can hear what we hear while also seeing what we see from our perspective. I think it's a pretty cool experience.
So Wednesday, June 10th, Cody Gold garage sale. All proceeds benefit the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And again, Jake Eisenberg will give you guys an opportunity to go up to the Royals broadcast booth for an inning.
You can bid on some of his old clothing too if you want to dress like Jake while you see Jake.
Yeah. I dropped off some stuff the other day, including I'll advertise them as game worn Bally Sports and FanDuel Sports Network polos. They are game worn. And they have also been washed. I would like to make that clear too. But they were game worn.
You know what it is? Now they're collector's items because it's Royals.tv
right. They're
now.
Vintage.
Yeah.
They're vintage.
They're not printing up more of these. That
No.
this is your opportunity to own them. I want to start with, before we get into the Royals specifically, the plans kicked between Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association. Do you dig too deep into these, or are you just like, this is the initial step of many, so you don't want to get too committed to one side or the other? I guess, how do you view these plans from both sides?
Yeah, it's more of the latter. If I'm being totally honest, I actually didn't dig into either yesterday or the day before, just because it's so preliminary, and also there's nothing that I say or do that is going to impact any of this. And so I kind of just stay very much on the outside, and whatever the parties discuss and wherever they wind up meeting, I think will wind up being good for baseball one way or another. But it's not something that I'm going to dive in too deeply with or spend too much time thinking about.
I think that I guess like from this perspective, the worry over losing baseball, or just let's just say the fight between one side wants one thing, one side wants the other. How do you balance the like who's right or wrong, or do you look at it from a hey, in the end, I just want the thing that's best for the sport?
Yeah, it's that. I want the thing that's best for the sport, and I think that ultimately that's what we're going to wind up getting, and hopefully we get there sooner rather than later, and we see the game continue, frankly, in the great place that it's operated over the last few years. I mean, we are currently, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, I think in a golden age of this sport with some of the greatest players that this sport has ever seen, some of the greatest viewership, some of the greatest attendance, some of the greatest everything. And I think that there's an understanding of that on both sides of this issue, that, when it's all said and done, look, my job and the thing that I love to do is go to the ballpark and share these baseball games with everybody that wants to enjoy them, whether it's on the radio or on TV. That's my primary, secondary, and tertiary concern. And so when we have baseball, and whatever form that takes, I'll be there to celebrate it.
We're talking to Jake Eisenberg here on 96.5 The Fan. All right, back on the field with the Royals. We all know an off day yesterday. This is 2 Fridays in a row we've talked to you after an off day. We were hoping last week that off day would trigger something. Of course, it unfortunately did not, and it ended very, very poorly with the Yankees. I think you were talking about the stat throughout that series, or at least the last night of the series against the Yankees, where the Royals were outscored 50-10. I understand it goes in the record books as a loss just like any other, but seeing that stretch, what has it been about the Yankees? I know Royals fans are frustrated by a lot right now, but the Yankees in general, 14 straight wins going back to the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo something that Q said the other day, and I think he's right about this, as I think he is about a lot of things. The Yankees are a really good team, and good teams tend to win a lot of baseball games, and the Yankees have been consistently one of the best teams in baseball over the last few years. When the Royals, battled them in that division series, and it was a close series, that was still a Yankees team that went to the World Series that year. And they fell far short of it last year, certainly their expectations, but they still have one of the best rotations in baseball. They have the best offense in baseball. They have the best overall hitter in baseball, and Aaron Judge. That is a tough thing to contend with. And I think what we've seen over the last couple of years in those specific matchups is that because of the talent the Yankees have on all sides of the ball, they have a much larger margin for error. That one mistake is something that they are able to overcome because of their talent up and down the lineup. Jenny and I were talking about this the other night. You know, as much as we like to boo Jazz Chisholm, and understandably so, the dude still hit 30 homers and had 30 steals last year, and he's hitting 7th in their lineup. That's the kind of talent that we're talking about with them, and so they have a larger margin for error, especially given the way that they plan, especially when they have someone like Cam Schlittler or Garrett Cole on the mound. So when you look at that particular matchup, you're right. You know, you can be outscored 100 to nothing, and it's still 6 losses. It certainly feels differently, though, and I think that's the part that is so difficult to swallow about it. Is you're right there with them just a couple of years ago in the division series, and it has not really felt all that close since then.
When you look at, I guess, what's next, do you think, like, I guess if you were in charge or any version of this, is it better to say, hey, here's a history of the teams who have had slow starts and still got the job accomplished, or just say, hey, pressure's off and let's just try to play good baseball the rest of the way? What's the right message to give a team that is off to a slow start but had expectations?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's understanding that this is a 162-game season, and yes, we're a third of the way through it, but that also means there's still 2/3 of the season left, and so many things can happen, both that you can foresee happening and also that you can't predict. I mean, that's the beauty of the sport, right? You can't predict baseball. You know, I was trying to dig into this a little bit this morning, and I was talking to a couple of people, and I realized, you know, the Royals right now are 22-34, right? That's how you've started the season. There are teams over the last couple of years that have had a 22-34 stretch at any point during the season and still found themselves in the playoffs. And what was eye-opening to me is that each of the last 2 years, there has been a team from the American League Central that has happened to. Last year, the Guardians. 2 years ago, the Tigers. They both endured 22-34 stretches at some point through their year and still made it to the postseason. That's all to say, like, there is precedent for what the Royals have experienced, that you can still have success come September and into October. That doesn't make it easy. That doesn't make it likely, but it does make it possible. And because of that possibility, there is a reason to sit in that clubhouse or sit in the stands and say, you know what? This has been a tough year. This has not been what we wanted or what we expected in any way, shape, or form. But that doesn't mean game 56, it's time to punt, time to reevaluate what our goals are. There's still very much enough runway where those goals can become a reality, especially in an American League where there's less than 5 teams with a record over 500. I think that's part of the sport that we haven't spent too much time thinking about, that it's not just the Royals that have gotten off to a slow start. And yes, their Royals slow start is slower than a lot of other teams, but there are a lot of other teams that are also trying to figure out what's been going wrong so far this season. You know, there are exactly 5 teams in the American League with a record above 500. That's not a whole lot.
Stephen Kolek goes tonight for the Royals. He's not a big strikeout guy. We know that. Is this as simple as, like, when you watch him pitch, is this just one of those, like, throw strikes? That's probably a good thing. Like, he doesn't walk anybody, Jake. Is it that simple, his success, or what does he do well, I guess, from your end?
Yeah, he's in the strike zone. He's aggressive. He has enough late movement on his pitches, especially that sinker, where he's going to miss the barrels, and that's what gives you the weak contact. I made this comp a couple of days ago. The way that he pitches, his mound presence, it reminds me a lot of Michael Wacha, where it's rhythmic, it's calm, it's not, high octane 99 mile an hour stuff, but man, is it effective, and man, is it fun to watch. And maybe it's pure coincidence that they're both out of Texas A&M. I think that is more coincidence than correlation. But when we've watched Stephen Kolek these last few starts, I see a lot of the composure and presence that we've seen from Wacha over the last few years. And Waka's been one of the best pitchers in the league so far this year. I don't know if anyone else has seen that similarity, but it's something that I noticed.
108 pitches last time out because of that complete game shutout and the masterful performance from Kolek. Do you think that, they'll keep an eye on him tonight? Could this be a situation where, fans maybe are wondering why? Let's say he's pitching well, but he gets pulled a little early tonight just because, still a guy doesn't have a ton of experience going, back after a 108 pitch outing and then following it up with, let's say, a 90+ pitch outing.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And I think if there was a reason for that, it'd be more about the 9 ups in the last start than the 108 pitches, because he's thrown triple-digit pitches before. That said, and I'll talk about this on the broadcast tonight, I had a conversation with Stephen, just the other day. We were kind of talking about the complete game shutout and how it had all gone. And I was asking him if between starts, his routine had been any different after throwing 9 innings and 108 pitches, and if he noticed any differences. And he said something, he said to me, and he meant, let me be clear, he meant nothing by this. It was because he's such a nice, humble, character of a person. But I said, has there been anything different about, between starts or anything different after a complete game shutout? And he goes, well, I've done it before. And it was just the most perfect understanding. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, he has done it before. And how many pitchers can say that? And, we both took a step back. I was like, dude, do you realize what you just said? What a cool thing that you can say, oh, yeah, this is actually not new for me. I actually did this just last year when I threw a complete game shutout in Denver. So I know what this is like, which is all to say that he's done this before. There isn't something that is kind of new, uncharted water for him here. He's experienced coming off of a complete game shutout before, and that was a complete game shutout at Coors Field, no less, which is going to be taxing to different reasons. So I think he's going to be just fine. I'm not so sure that the last start is going to have much of an impact, if any, on this start.
Jake, before we let you get out of here, I've offered this to guests in the past. Would you like any future parenting advice, knowing that now you guys are expecting your first kid?
Yeah, thank you. I'll take any and all parenting advice. I will say that one of the pieces of advice that I got from somebody over the last month or so, he said one of the best pieces of advice that I got was to not listen to anybody else's advice.
Wow. So they just said, don't take anything. Honestly, it's all a crapshoot anyway. In a lot of cases.
And to that, I said, well, it sounds like you listen to the advice to not take advice. It's a little bit oxymoronic, don't you think? No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I'll take any and all parenting advice. We're so excited. Jen's doing great. Everything's been going really well so far, and we're really happy and excited.
We'll get a Royals onesie in their future, I suppose.
I love it. I'd love it.
Jake, appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend down in Texas.
I appreciate it, guys. Take care.
There you go. Jake Eisenberg with us here on 96.5 The Fan. Yeah, I think we mentioned it a couple weeks back. Congratulations again to him and his wife expecting their first child. And Cody, I remember when Danny Welniak was trying to get.
She was on every week.
Danny Welniak, you were trying to give her parenting advice a couple years back as well. She
was back on and asked her how that went.
She was way too nice to you, and week after week allowed you to continue to give her some parenting advice. So again, when it comes to the Royals though on the field, I look, Stephen Kolek is, as we said earlier in the week, maybe one of the only big bright spots of the season. Otherwise, it's just tough to be all that optimistic about where this thing is headed right now.
That's
12 games under 500, and what? I'm not going to even have the conversation what do we think the road trip's going to turn out to be? Then you go 6-3. It doesn't. I mean, it's
going to take a month straight of good baseball before we even start doing that.
What evidence has anybody seen to suggest that they're capable of doing that?
They're 7-17 on the road this year, so none so far this season. Yeah. That's what I was asking Jake. If you're the person in charge, is the message, no, people have come back from worse, we can do it too, or is the message, pressure's off? Yeah. Just play regular baseball and try to win. They always say try to win tonight, but I mean, be serious. Pressure's off. Whatever you're putting on yourself to win the division before the season start, we don't need to think like that right now. We just got to figure out how to win a baseball game tonight. Forget all the historic of the teams you can give that speech to me 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now for playing good baseball. Then you can say, okay, there is still time. Look at all these other teams it was time for, but I wouldn't even entertain that until at least passable baseball is being played.